All right, hello guys, can you hear me? All right, so I'll just kick this off. I'll flick it over to the screen. Okay, this is the video in question. So this one went live probably about 9 hours ago or thereabouts and got a lot of comments. So, oh, cool, thanks for that. So today we're just going to go through the comments and see what everyone has to say and basically just respond to all of those before finishing up the stream. Most likely we won't be able to get to this really large thread and to then look through all the comments and respond to those, because that in itself is going to take a long time. So I will just keep it to the comments in this video. Pardon me, I'm just going to take a sip. All right, just going to shuffle my desk a bit, just one sec. And I'm also working on 4 hours of sleep as well, so if I need to duck out and things like that, then that's probably why. Just to kind of like get a bit more energy or whatever. So I'm going to switch the aircon on as well. Give me one sec. Okay, hello, good afternoon. How are we doing? Is everyone well? It's a Friday here. I'm not sure about you guys. I think in Europe it's also Friday as well, so they're probably in the middle of the night there at the moment. But for the US crew, evening I imagine. So it's probably a good time to actually watch the stream right now. So anyway, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. So I'll just hit the refresh on here. 24 for $10 nuggets. Okay, that's not too bad. Anyway.
What's the big attraction?
Let's pause that. Actually, we don't need to play the video, so I'll just do that as well. All right, so I think we will just go top to bottom and just reply to as much as we can. Some of these comments might be quite popular, so actually what I might do is I'll just pick out all the easy ones and just reply to those, and then we can work our way towards the kind of like the lengthy ones like these ones over here. Okay, so just going to shift my mouse around over here as well. And all right, so here we go. I'm going to sort by, let's do newest comments. Okay, first one from Iceman. I knew this was going to change up bosons. Good point on how wind force now will be very powerful and cheap to attain. Okay, so no real feedback as such. I think just give him a like and just say, yeah, definitely. All right, reply. Okay, so that's one comment down. Actually, I'm just going to shift some stuff here. Sorry, guys. Maybe I'll shift it over this way. This is better. Alrighties. Next, I don't see a problem here. Windforce should be a top dog if you ask me. Faith still has its uses on mercenaries. Cry about Hammers on Blizzards. Yeah, I've tested Hustle Windforce, still doesn't hold a candle to that. Yeah, I guess just the one thing, kind of the common theme I'm sort of seeing run around these comments here. I've had a glance in advance. So what a lot of people are saying is, oh, why don't you complain about balance in other areas, because bosons are BT, AT, or whatever it is. Well, I guess to that is kind of like, I'm just replying about hustle in this video, and I'm not really addressing everything else that I think is kind of wrong to the game or needs adjusting. So that's probably one thing that a lot of people here don't understand. And I guess the other thing as well, keep in mind that this is going to be a vocal minority, at least the ones that are kind of on the negative side of this feedback. So I had a look at the stats of the video. It's probably about 80% of the people like the video. So I think it's just a case as well that it's just a vocal minority. The other thing to keep in mind as well is might get kind of, I don't know, you could call this harsh. I don't know. It's kind of like not entirely respectful, but I think one thing to keep in mind is that obviously like you can get comments like this, but they could be phrased better, but at the same time, there's kind of like a concern behind it that is arguably valid, which I think we want to sort of acknowledge that as well. So it's like, obviously he's pointing out that there is a character imbalance that we should be aware of, and I think that's a valid point, I just think there's different ways to go about it, not by introducing an item that's just going to single-handedly address balance, because what you're going to have here is like, if you've got a single item that does it, then it's like if one day melee characters become too strong, it's like, oh, it's because of burst of speed. Well, okay, but how do we nerf that, right? So actually, let me just try to add something here. Display capture, window capture, I'll do that. I'm just going to add something in Paint. Is it actually window capture? Jared is asking, what's the best Boa loadout without Fort, Wind Force, or Faith? Without Wind Force or Faith? I mean, Mist is pretty good. I think if you're looking apart from those two, if you're not even in that sort of range, Harmony is a good option as well. Harmony might not have the best DPS, but it's got that movement speed boost, which kind of makes up for it in terms of clear speeds overall. For Mercenary, you definitely want to have a Might Mercenary using Reaper's Toll or something like that. That's going to really start to amplify your damage up if you don't have something like a Pride. So, okay, how do I do this? So, display capture or window capture? I think it's window capture. So I'll just do that. What if I just go, okay, and I will add, where is it? MS Paint. All right, so just going to show something in MS Paint here. So the reason why it's not a good way to balance things using this burst of speed on hit is because later on, if you need to do some future patch balancing stuff, then what you're going to find is like, okay, we've got this 5% chance to proc a specific skill, and it's on striking, yeah? Okay, so you got three things that you need to worry about. If you adjust the item itself, say, to make it less frequent, or you change the bases that the item can be made in, then you're changing itemization, which you want to get it right the first time, ideally. But if they find it's imbalanced, then what? Do they have to go and delete items and things like that? So that's one thing. That's one of the reasons why it's better to adjust skills rather than items, because people invest in items, and I know from that perspective, Hustle's not the best example of that because it only requires a co-rune. But let's say like it is an expensive rune word, and then one day they change the mechanic of this. It's kind of like, well, okay, I spent all my burr runes on this item, so now it's a lot weaker because of it. So that's why skills over items is a lot better from a balancing perspective. If you decide to nerf bursts of speed to kind of nerf the item, well, then you're nerfing the assassin over here. And if, say, the assassin's already weak, then it's just going to make her even weaker. And then if you change how the proc mechanic works to make it so that the striking mechanic only works under certain circumstances, well, then it's kind of like you're breaking things like Atma's. Reaper's Toll, Witchwold Strings. So you're nerfing all of that sort of stuff because you're changing the underlying mechanic. So when you're trying to introduce complicated things, such as burst of speed on striking, then you're just introducing a lot more complexity that's harder to wind back if it doesn't work out, or future things come along and then you need to wind it back in the future. That's why it's a lot better to adjust skills and skill numbers rather than doing changes like this. So that's where a lot of where I'm coming from is. It's not to say that there isn't a balance issue. I try to make it clear in the video, but it's just more like we just don't want this proc. That's all I'm saying. We don't want this specific mechanic. I'm not saying we don't want buffs, whatever it is. Like, that's not what I'm saying here. Just saying, just don't want this burst of speed. Right, so hopefully I covered that one and we understand it. So anyway, we'll just jump back into here and we'll figure out which ones to reply to first. Why don't you cry about Hammond or Blizzorks? I've tested Hustle with Windforce, still doesn't hold a candle to that. Yeah, okay, look, I'll just say I'll still understand. I understand the concerns about balance, and I do think these need to be addressed. Hence why I suggested to address these via skill changes and things that are less complex and kind of like and stable, let's call it, than a burst of speed proc on a single item. And let's just call that end rigid as well. Okay. All right. So that's that one there. I completely disagree with your take. Hustle is a direct buff to every single bow in a game. Yeah, I don't think I ever not said that, I suppose. Just go to the comments in this live chat here as well. Over Harmony, Grand Matron Bow, and Insight Mat. Yeah, look, they're not bad. I think Harmony does more damage than Insight just because of that elemental damage on Harmony. But it's going to depend on what base you make it in as well. HKP, Harmony and Goldstrike kind of work. Yeah, definitely, especially if you up Goldstrike as well. Windforce is kind of accessible nowadays, even if you just do it with P gems into IS trades. And yeah, definitely. Look, and I think it's going to be the case for this ladder as well. There's going to be a lot of Windforces in that come up that will be perfectly tradable for like your kind of medium-high runes such as IS to Vex. That's always the case for ladder. So yeah, I guess the things that some people say in here as well, I've noticed, is that some people say Windforce is rarer than Faith. Well, it's not really that simple. It's going to depend on how and where you farm. If you're farming Pindleskin and things like that, you're most likely going to come across a Windforce before you can actually make a Faith bow. If you're doing like Pit Zerker pit runs or something like that, then you're most likely going to come across a Windforce before being able to come across Jar, and a base for Grand Matron Bow, right? Because it's going to be dependent on who you kill. If you're doing like Arcane Sanctuary runs or maybe stuff like that, the runes will drop more often. But you got to think about the bow base as well. And keep in mind that the video showed it was just a very rough kind of calculation, kind of like this one over here. So it was fairly rough. I just put it together fairly quickly just to kind of illustrate, like, these are the components that go into a Faith bow, and when you add them all up, then, you know, the higher the rarer, especially the superior ones, it's not actually as hard to find a wind force as you think. But if you raise this MF number, then that means wind force is going to be found more often. Minions, if you kill those, the drop rates for wind force is slightly more, but that's just a minor point anyway. But the other thing as well is when you find a Jar and Om rune, you're not actually finding a faith, right? Aside from the base, like let's say, a Grand Matron bow plus 3 to bow skills, 4 socket base, right? You're not actually finding a faith. So if you get a Jar and Om, you're getting the option to make a faith, and they're two actually different things. And the reason why this matters is because Jar rune is used in a lot of rune words. So you've got your enigmas, you've got your last wishes, you've got ice. Like, so if you're a frosty, then you're definitely going to want to be making ice rather than faith. You've also got, what uses Jar? Phoenix as well. So if you're a Fire Bolazon or you're a Javazon and want to make it in a shield, then that Jar rune could potentially go to that instead of making a faith. And so, yes, you can theoretically farm for a faith quicker than finding a wind force. But over the time, if you take the entire player base and just add everything all up in terms of drops and everything else, there's going to be plenty more wind forces out there that drop than there are going to be faiths that get made in bases and things like that. So and the market reflects that too, because I mean the faith base alone is a Vex, and wind force is between is to a Vex. So I mean the base alone is going to be rivaling how much wind force is going to cost to trade for. And yeah, you could argue it's because of metas and stuff, but I mean, faith base, who else is going to be using that apart from a Bolazon, really, right? So that argument doesn't really stand up. So anyway, back to the comments. I completely disagree with your take here. Hustle is a direct buff. It would make other bows more competitive, like Eaglehorn, Miss, Goldstrike, Arch, just to name a few. Yeah, it makes wind force better, but I don't see how this is a problem. It still won't be competitive with top builds in the game. Okay. Faith has been meta for 20 years. I think it's about time to give other bows a chance to shine. I mean, a lot of that's really just opinion without really care about the game itself. I would say I appreciate your opinions. The main thing here is I'm not saying there's no balance issue in the game, but let's address this in a much better way. You already have Treachery and Mav's Helm for increased attack speed, as well as Laying of Hands. Okay. And Wind Force as well has 20% increased attack speed as well. Alright, so increased attack speed is not really a big issue in the game. I would say that, I guess it could be a mix of things almost, right? Or rather that melee builds kind of pale in comparison to casters, for example. But it is things that can be addressed by skill changes. And one of the things that I suggest could be done, and one that I kind of alluded to in the video. So if I go up to here, I've got to skip the ad. I think it's somewhere around over here. So right here. So see how Strafe has this much damage, and then as I start to pour skill points into it, you'll see it goes up by 13 points maximum out of 5,000. So one thing that can be done to fix skills, for example, is make each skill point also add flat damage to your attacks as well, not just percentage damage. Because Bolzons have a huge amount of percent damage on them in total, something like plus 2000%, depending on what items and stuff they have. So if you add, just sort of like the rough calculations on this, if you've got a level 20 strafe, and then you've got plus 20 damage as a result, that's actually a 8% DPS boost on its own, if you just have plus 1 damage on each skill level. Just going to go back here. No matter what you say, people will always misunderstand. Yeah, I understand that part. I think you do a good job being reasonable, charitable, and using proper nuance. Yeah, I agree. And I think nuance is very important when trying to address people's concerns, but also respect is important when trying to address people's concerns here as well. I always try to keep things above board, respectful, because every single comment here, there's always a person on the other side, and it's always a player on the other side as well. So I do want to make sure that I'm always respectful and cordial, nuanced, things like that. He's right. Faith can take a seat. Let's do it to Grief next. Yeah, okay, I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, if you've got a preference for Wind Force, and I mean, the option's already there to use it. It's a perfectly fine bow. There are merits as to why Faith is in the position where it's at, and reason why I don't think it should change. And if you consider as well, Wind Force and Faith in their current states are fairly close in terms of performance with each other. So with this buff with burst of speed on striking, it's going to actually throw it out, not just in terms of the fact that Wind Force overtakes Faith in performance, but by how much Wind Force is going to be better than Faith as a result of that. So I think in the video I said something like, it's a 16, I can't remember the numbers now, but it was a 16% overtaking here. Yeah, so Wind Force has 16% more DPS than Faith. For a Faith that like might have costed 15, 20, 30 burr runes to put together instead of something that's worth a Vex rune. Like I can't see how that makes sense. Hard part is being respectful even when they aren't. Yeah, it's kind of something I've kind of learnt how to do over time. I guess as well, if someone is clearly trying to be disrespectful, then it's a different ball game. But if there is kind of ways to kind of salvage a conversation, always explore that for sure. Checked out the PTR. Useless new rune words, what a joke. Only one thing that was good with the drilled ones, even mediocre. The drilled one is my favorite. Not really relevant, but yeah, I guess they need to add a way to transform direct from wolf to bear and back. Alright, trying to speed this up because there's a lot of comments in here. Will it not just make Wind Force more expensive to trade for? So with this one, it's more of an economy question. Will it make it more expensive to trade for? I don't think so. Only if the meta shifts will be more expensive. People do actually trash Wind Forces, so we may just see less Wind Forces trashed on the ground. I feel like having it better than Faith isn't really a problem. How do you reply to this one? Clown face. Just another smiley, I guess. What's the appropriate one here? I don't know. We'll just move on. I think it's a waste of time. Whatevs. Another thing to note here, that this more inexpensive combo increases accessibility to the Bolazons and therefore meta diversity. Yeah, I mentioned stuff about the balance before, but one thing that people are forgetting is that the strafe bug is actually getting fixed in this version. Pez has actually confirmed that. Whether it actually happens or not is another thing, but I think he's watched my video or at least seen other people's comments about the bug as well. So the fact that the strafe bug is getting fixed means that you've got an option mainly in the kind of like the late normal all the way through nightmare part, where you've got a skill that you can lean on instead of multi-shot, where if you're having attack rating issues and things like that, the strafe skill now will have working attack rating and also lose the damage penalty as well, which like it was meant to in patch 2.4. So if you've got strafe that instead of it doing 75% damage, now doing 100% damage, that is an instant 33.333% damage buff to Bolazons using strafe. And then you've got attack rating on top of that, then you're hitting more often with that higher damage. So strafe has got a bit of potential now. It is something I want to be testing. I don't think it's going to be sort of late game kind of skill like multi-shot is. Multi-shot's more late game once you've got enough damage, arrows, and mana leech to kind of be able to sustain it well. But strafe is a good early option, and it's at least it's going to be a good early option in my opinion. So I won't mention that here, but actually maybe I will. You still have some good other options as well, such as Treachery, what was I going to say? Treachery, Mav's Helm, but also the strafe bug is getting fixed too, which is a big buff. Do keep that in mind. I would also like to see more balance changes. Rather than this versus speed change, even if it means delaying ladder a bit. So I'll just say, edit. Faith provides crowd benefit. Yeah. Yeah, crowd benefit, sure. But for whom, really? Merc is using Pride. So it's not really a huge benefit there. The radius is a tad small for party members, especially melee ones. Okay, from what I saw in macros testing, I think Faith is still best in slot for multi-shots, but now you don't need increased attack speed duels. Yeah, I'm not sure. The other thing about that is it depends on how you spec it as well. If you go all vitality, then potentially so, yes. Because if you go all vitality, then you don't have attack rating, but also you don't have as much off-weapon ED, which Faith has natively built in the bow, whereas Windforce doesn't. As you get more off-weapon ED, it favors Windforce more than it favors Faith. The Windforce, less chance to hit, and less off. I'll just say this. Windforce needs more off weapon ED than Faith does. I'm not saying needs, but more like Windforce benefits more. Okay, so that's that one there. Alright, next one. I love the availability of burst of speed for us off meta melee mains. It helps a great deal. Just try to read through this more quickly actually. So I'm just going to skip through this comment and just pick out some stuff. Poorly implemented as a proc. Every 3 minutes. Greater in-game level. Pleasing. Make it more than a half-hour's buff stick. Yeah. Going away to Enigma. Throw, charge, and vigor on a sick ass. Blizzard only wants some casuals around long enough to buy D4. Yeah, that's a thing. I was thinking like maybe they're doing these changes because they want to get people off D2 and onto Diablo 4. I don't know, bit of a conspiracy theory that I kind of concocted in my mind, but it's probably not half false actually. I think they did great with 100%. I 100% agree. A great patch. I didn't like it too much at the start, but I really warmed up to it. And I'll admit Metamorphosis and Hustle will definitely buff him up nicely. Can use all Crushing Blow. Edge case builds, doesn't do much for mainstream meta. I'm looking forward to Metamorphosis as well. For items that look to just balance in a crude way, not so keen on those. You just don't want the masses flocking to your preferred class. Now you won't seem cool to a single soul. That's an interesting take. So I want to encourage players to not play Bolzons and in turn look to my videos for advice. That's a good tactic to you think? Okay. Let's look at the comments here. More casual players. God, sorry guys, I'm going to do pretty poor today with the live chats here. Never thought there would be D2 Bow channel. My first character is Bow and feel very hard as starter character. Boson needs a huge investment, high level gear, some skills that just... Yeah, but I think that's part of the learning process, right? So... especially if you're used to a caster character, they work differently, and like so in terms of like bringing them up, but also I think it's important to kind of nail down the play style of the Bolzon. That's actually one of the important things here, because if you can use a Valkyrie and a Mercenary quite well to get monsters off your back, then you can a lot more easily focus on your DPS by pumping Dexterity. Dexterity then sort of boosts up your damage, but also boosts up your chance to hit as well. Like, they're actually pretty important things. And then knowing what charms and stuff are good for your build as well. I mean, like, it all comes to it. And then learning what item options you do have as you're leveling up and going through the game. and being able to trade for those items as a result, that's also important. And I would say that that's actually part of the game, in essence, right? Diablo 2, you're learning stuff. Like if you're new, you're learning stuff. You're learning how to overcome challenges. And that's in essence what I'm trying to make sure that stays in the game, is that we don't want the game to be too easy to the point where like you just get hustle, get harmony, and off you go. That's all you need to be able to beat hell. It's like, okay, well, great, I can beat hell, but before I know it, like I've lost interest in the game because it's no longer challenging anymore. So we just have to balance things out properly. I think there's valid cases where like you could get stuck in a jam, and it was the case before 2.4, and that's where the introduction of bows like Insight were fantastic. It addressed that problem. So it's stuff like that I fully support. Giving us more options to get through the game, I'm happy with that. But not really stuff like this that's got a huge amount of impact to both the medium and the end game. Especially the end game is the concern on this one. Let's see. Something being more difficult to get by a landslide doesn't mean it should be the best. In fact, I think that discourages less casual players to play Bolzon. More casual players, typo. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to get a faith. That's the thing. Like, you can use a Wind Force perfectly right now. My online character actually uses Wind Force right now, just because I honestly don't play a lot online. And so, yeah, I just haven't bothered trading for a faith yet. I've got all this other stuff just sitting in my stash waiting to be used, but I just haven't used it yet. Yeah, so true, as a casual player, you should not play as the Bolzon. See, I don't know if I agree with that. Like, it depends on what your goals are. If you want to play a Bolzon, then play a Bolzon. If you're trying to compare yourself to other players, like, you're just going to be doing that rather than just enjoying the game on your own terms. Like, I don't know, like, call me crazy, but I want to play a Bolzon because I like the play style. If I have to play another character to get more, better farming or whatever, that's your thing. But it doesn't mean that Bolzons are not playable, because they are a fun class. They are balanced relative to the content that's in the game, like, so that it's not too difficult, but it's not too easy either. Casters can absolutely breeze through things, but is that what we really want in a game, is to be able to beat things in like 3 seconds? And obviously I'm exaggerating by saying 3 seconds, but you get my point anyway. So, GTFO of here with his dumb video. You must not have played Diablo 2 long enough to have a grasp enough to try and make a video about it. I've tested Hustle, and it would be the only reason to ever play a Bolzon other than a niche ice bower, which like zero people play for ladder. You might want to check out, actually I won't even name their YouTube channel here, but there definitely was a ice Bolzon that made it to level 99 this ladder, and made it probably before most other players have, so... this shit makes me want to go back to my roots in... Oh, then by all means do so. Like, go back to, whatever it is and enjoy that. Don't bring attitude to this video, It's kind of like, telling someone, get the fuck out. I mean, you don't know me, I don't know you. Like, what's really the problem here, right? Majority of the community remember the nostalgia of... Okay, great. When shit was broken back in the day with Pierce, Ithstu, blah blah blah. Good old days. Because of that era of D2, probably never would have existed for those days. Really kind of just droning on here. Like, I'm not here to listen to stories, but... okay. Well... Glad to hear your opinion. Cool. We both have one. It's fantastic. Completely agree with everything in this video. I love Windforce, I'm using it right now, but being able to hold Hustle instead of Harmony on swap would completely render Faith obsolete. Yeah, man. Definitely. Definitely need a few more high runes Boa on the Boa to even call yourself Boa. I mean, talking about me personally, or like, what are you trying to say there? Because if it's me, I spent all my high runes on 40-50 Angels, so yeah, I guess I'm technically am kind of broke when it comes to high runes, but I do have Jarran Burr for making an Enigma pretty soon as well, but yeah. Glass Cannon PvP Zons were so fun. Yeah, nothing to really mention there. They need to remove the buff when swapped. That would affect Assassins too, actually. Yeah, I don't know about that. That would affect Treachery. But yeah, I suppose, yeah. Treachery, but then you're going to be wearing it anyway. Design to begin with is not really ideal. The Bolzon has been nerfed since 110 when Godadaro no longer pierced through. Yep, okay. Duel lasted the time 5 arrows took to shoot off. Leave it alone, honestly, since Bolzon's died. Except I'm not asking for a nerf. Okay. I've already answered that one earlier. I run Faith on my Act 1 Merc and Windforce myself. Cool. Terrific. Do you mean hours or high tunes? I love high tunes. Yeah. Having to pre-buff half a dozen proc items just to get a bit of a boost to melee classes is the opposite of accessible. It creates excessive downtime for players. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, why not just buff the skills instead? Like, that way they come into effect instantly. So, yeah, I just don't know why Blizzard didn't stick to that existing model that was successful for patch 2.4. And then instead it started to deviate to this one. Why use a different approach if the previous one worked? I just don't understand. Actually, maybe one reason why is because they wanted to migrate Mist and some of the other, like Flickering Flame and Plague to non-ladder. Maybe that's a reason why, so that they could just cycle the rune words, because otherwise we would have had the same set of rune words for like 3 ladder seasons. Maybe that's the motivation, and people losing interest, blah, blah, blah. I'm not against new rune words and stuff. I love the idea of metamorphosis and even Mosaic as well. Mosaic has a big potential for AoE based martial art assassins if they could fix up a few things like next hit delay, repair costs on superior claws especially. If they can fix some of that stuff and then people can test it out in the PTR, that would be really good. Also creates clunkiness to the game. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, right? Like, so people say, oh, we must have loot filters. We must have stacking runes and gems and stuff. So they want to increase conveniences, but then they also want to increase inconveniences by letting this rune word stay. I just don't understand that either. Let's move on here. I know I need to keep up here. I was hoping to do this a little bit quicker. On Switch, one can already get a Wind Force for basically free. I've seen players just leave them in the ground. Yeah, exactly. Issue is not what the new Runeword does, it's the fact that the vast majority of farmers just don't have the inventory space to pick up stuff, so they typically don't even pick up bows like Wind Force. Yep. This could be different for PC players. Oh, okay, it's a console player. Right. If it was to increase the value of Wind Force while also decreasing the value of Faith, wouldn't... Relative to what, though? Because Faith is going to require Jar and Omrunes regardless, so runewords are going to be always pegged to the runes that are needed to make them. Yeah, Wind Force might go up in value. I don't really agree that it would. I think only if the meta actually shifts, then Wind Force will go up. Wouldn't that be a relatively good thing? Making Faith easier to acquire for more people while giving others additional... I don't know. It's still going to be the same. I don't know what to say to this one. Now we'll just open up a new window here. Oh God, what happened there? All right. Let's put that on a back burner. Why not just make the Faith rune word better? It's already good enough, I would say. What should really be made better and more accessible is rare bows, especially ones with amp damage. Pre-buffing is a garbage gameplay loop, but failing to incorporate hustle into pretty much any attack rating build, I assume. Isn't pre-buffing with treachery just objectively incorrect? Honestly, if this is going to be implemented, they should just remove the duration on buff skills once and done. Let's just say, let's pray that it doesn't. Okay. Agreed, I feel like this is major oversight by the devs in the actual game mechanic. Removing 60 increased attack speed gear from a Fury Druid I've made, adding level 9 burst of speed, still netted almost 1 full frame more attacks per second. While this sounds fantastic on paper, people can now free up gear for more DPS res mana. Yeah, keep in mind you're also getting a buff through Metamorphosis as well, so... I mean, do definitely test out that one once they fix up the bug with Metamorphosis. Its implementation's what gets me. Why another pre-buff? Yeah, 100%. Yep, agreed. Buff skills should persist indefinitely. Yep. Shots fired. This breaks the game. I shall address this promptly and accordingly. Certainly hope so. That's what Valkyrie Decoy are for. Yep. For Zons, yes, of course, but various other classes pop. Oh, okay. What if Swarm of Dolls decide it's your time as you lose all movement and increase attack speed? Yeah, I guess. Guess that's the other element, isn't it? So having a burst of speed proc that you can't just cast on demand, yeah, you're gonna find that it disappears sometimes. Especially if you're using Hustle purely as a pre-buff option. The new rune words are crap. Yeah, I don't know about that, but they definitely need more work. Yes. Uh, 100%. I understand your point, but I actually kind of like the idea of giving up CTA. You already give up CTA. Use Harmony. That's already there. Bro, I want the item in the game. Yeah, a lot of these people are kind of like kids in a candy shop. They want what they see, and what they see is going to be sweet on their tongue. But what they really need is to kind of take medicine to make them feel better. So let's expand these comments out here. More increased attack speed buffs is what we need. But you can already get attack speed from lots of sources if you wanted to. Like Mav's Helm is there. You can get 3 increased attack speed jewels. Do not poop on advancements for IS-based builds because you care about a Dumbo build. Yeah, it's not clearly my point. This could affect everything. Smiters, shapeshifters, spiritons. Yeah, interestingly, it could affect Javazons as well and make them even stronger. That'll be fun. It's a big deal. It's a huge buff, and I don't want to see it out of the game. This dumb critic on a bow build. Bro, nobody even plays bow builds, but it will make some physical damage builds late game. So hard, and yeah. Is it really hard though? Or you just got caster envy? It also fixes the nerfs I made to devs suck and have no respect for them. Okay. For real, dude. Yep, okay. Very much agree with all your points, however, I think Hustle Rune Word would be better served by dropping Ko to a Hell. Hell Rune would allow consistent farming in Nightmare Countess and allow players to just starting Nightmare to have access. Well, it's not a bad point. I'm not going to say whether I agree or disagree with it because I really don't know. It's going to be dependent on the rune word itself and what you change it to. In addition, it would allow Hustle to be played for 2/3 of the path to Hell Bale, I suppose. I think whether you change the code to a jar rune or whatever, I think my position on it still changes. I think if I could be, I don't know, more accepting of the Hustle rune word would be to change the burst of speed proc from level 9 to level 2. I saw that one written somewhere, and it's actually quite a sound suggestion. So it's not as high attack speed bonus as Faith, and it's not high a run walk bonus as Harmony. And so it's actually a pretty intelligent suggestion on that one, and it's something that I'd be open to if we didn't want to remove the proc. But yeah, from level 9 to level 2, it also reduces the duration on it. And I think the other suggestion there was to also only make the rune word on melee weapons, so not missile weapons, which I think both of those together I could accept. Yeah, definitely. Keeping the Ko rune for the first time, you're going to encounter Hustle 1 in 11 from Nightmare Forge. Yeah, not bad suggestions. I'll probably get to that one later. Want to have a bit more of a chance to think about it. At this point, they should just remove uniques and only have runes and bases drop. Okay. Unique buffs. I'll say certain unique buffs are definitely in order. I agree. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. What an awful take. I did respond to that earlier. What else is going on in here? I did watch it all. Still terrible takes. Stand by my comment. More of us poor plebs just want to play Let the Meat Cake, the people rolling in jars and burrs. Right. Main a godlike Bolzon. If this guy impresses you, perhaps I care about the integrity of the game itself rather than just buffs. Crazy, I know. Your elitism is funny. Who's that? Oh. People just bickering between each other. Internet is very serious business. Comments. For Zons, yes, of course. Oh yeah, I've already read that one. Set a timer to reproc your buff. That's the new meta, apparently, lol. The value will go up on Windforce if more Bolzons play. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it would only go up if more people play Bolzons. And I think really the thing that's going to shift the needle on more people playing Bolzons with respect to this latter season anyway, aside from me encouraging people to play Bolzons, would be like if there's like a discernible shift in the meta itself. That's why I 100% believe that we need to have balance changes, because without those, we can't we can't make it like a more difficult choice rather. Is it more difficult or more easy? I can't work out what I'm trying to say, what words to use for that. But basically, like if we don't have balance changes now, then it's again going to be a not too difficult decision for players to kind of pick their usual characters that they've used in the previous ladders. If they did balance things more, yep, definitely that would be a good thing. More people can choose builds that they actually want to play if they want to be competitive. I understand all that. All I'm saying is just go about it a different way. That's all I'm saying. This is all a good thing. You will need to keep hustle on swap, so you have to QBO. Yeah. So Harmony's currently the sort of best swap option anyway, so Hustle will just outright replace Harmony. Top tier Bosons will still use Faith for quality of life reasons. Well, I disagree with that. So I'll edit this one here. Going forward, we'll stick to Faith for that reason. If they know how to make Windforce work by making it have enough attack rating and things like that, let's just say. 16% DPS is just too hard to give up. Beautiful words in the last 2 minutes. Tip my hat for you to that. Thank you. Hey, Tomac, how's it going? We're through a whole bunch of comments now. I don't know how much more there is to go, but I was hoping it would be just another half an hour for this stream, but it might be a little bit longer. So, from a PVM perspective, hustle is a good thing. Mobility is only an issue. Oh yes, cover the topic of mobility. One thing I do want to see for Amazons, and this will benefit Bolzons more than Javazons here, is for the evade skill to have a plus, like a run walk kind of bonus on it. So every skill point or every plus skill into evade will have like a plus 1% run walk movement speed bonus, and so just right off the bat there, you kind of get 10%, depending on how much plus skills you have. a 10% extra movement speed just from that alone. So I think that's a good change to add in order to improve clear speeds and stuff overall. For Bolzons in particular that use Fortitude, for Javasons, more likely to kind of use Enigmas because of the plus skill life per kill. MF probably applies to both depending on what you're farming, but the teleport to be able to reposition a mercenary. So Javasons are a lot more Javasons are going to be using Enigmas and Bolzons using Enigmas. Let's put it that way. So I think because of that, that will benefit Bolzons a bit more in particular. But even if it benefited Javasons with that respect, I don't think that's a big issue, even if they're already quite strong. So I think movement speed. I hope Liz will add a plus 1% effective faster run walk on the evade skill per skill level. This is what the Amazon class needs, as they don't have any skill-based movement options, and they have poor FCR rates. Hustle's about the increased attack speed. No, it's not. Hustle is, the devs state that Hustle is about movement speed options before you get an Enigma. I disagree. The devs say that Hustle is all about movement speed options. It's a design oversight. Whether they are happy with that end result is another story, but it wasn't about attack speed. Yep. Idea for glass cannon, FCR Teleboa with Spirit Hustle swap ultra appealing. And did I misread this actually? Hustle's all about the increased attack speed and won't edge out Faith unless we're talking strictly PVM. Okay. Let's just see what they reply with eventually. Lol, this is a fucking list of dog shit's problems, but yeah, hard to disagree. It's hard to respond to a comment like that. It's just gone from one end to the spectrum to the other. Doing the Lord's work here. Well, I appreciate the sentiments. No, I honestly wouldn't mind if kind of like Blizzard approached me and say like, hey, we want some advice on how to balance a game. Can you help us out a bit? I'd be more than happy to put my hand up for that. And certainly like with respect to adding some comments and stuff onto here, definitely want to do more of that. But yeah, do want to consider all points of view. Let's see. I do not agree. Now I skipped this one here. But yeah, hard to disagree. Definitely need to address balance in the right way. I hope Blizzard do. Okay, that's good enough. No one uses CTA on Bolzons. You're missing the point, are you not? Okay, let's see what they said. I do not agree with the analysis. Burst of Speed takes your whole swap, whereas you still have it with Faith for CTA or Jav, Storm Shield or whatnot. This is a cost that needs to be factored in. Not really, because what he said is actually true. Like, because you're using Harmony on swap, you're not going to be using CTA as a result of that. CTA just gives you a hit point buff. If you don't get hit, then you don't need CTA. That's really the principle. If you do need to pump up your vitality a little bit to kind of achieve that end, like to the extent that you don't die, then sure, you can do that if you want. That's a perfectly acceptable solution. But using CTA just to ensure that you don't die 100%, you're almost shooting yourself in the foot there because you're losing all of that mobility as a result. This is a cost that needs to be factored in. You can also have burst of speed and use a Faith Bow. Yes, I acknowledged that in the video when I stated how much of a DPS gain Faith gets. Quite right. Only a 7.5% DPS buff after you optimize your gear for that extra increased attack speed. Very marginal. Also, the marketplace of Windforce is irrelevant because the demand will drastically increase once burst of speed becomes available on swap. That really still depends on if people play the bowlers on at the start of ladder. That on its own won't. And if that's what we're after, like, I'm not really concerned about Windforce or Faith in of themselves, but item progression is an important thing. To try and get that right. It's almost kind of like you go to the casino and you bet all on 33, right? And then you end up hitting it, but you only get one chip back or one extra chip back. And then with the Windforce equivalent version of that, it's like you put it all on black and then you get like tenfold chips back. It's just kind of flipped upside down. It's just not how it's supposed to work in terms of risk reward or in terms of effort versus reward. It just doesn't make sense. It's more than YouTube comments deserve, really, lol. Yeah, I mean, to this day, I've responded to pretty much every single YouTube comment on the channel, like, for the past, 14 months. And I do definitely want to keep that up because I do think people deserve a response of some kind. Yeah, unless if they're being rude, then I'll just respond in kind. That's fine. No problems with that. Windforce is super easy to farm now with Terror Zones. Exactly, yeah. Windforce drops a lot more because of that. I mean, runes drop a little bit more as well, but it affects uniques more than it does runes. And bases and stuff, well, Grand Matron Bow bases, I suppose they do increase the drop rates on those too as a result, but net result is Faith is still a lot harder to come by at the end of the day. When the chips hit the table, Faith is a lot harder to get. Okay, next comment. Sorry, I see what you mean. Yeah, but considering what is typically used on swap, either I'll just say this as well. Give up faster run walk in favor of CTA. Whether this change goes through or not. In my opinion, if you're making a boa girl with fanaticism instead of Windforce, you are already wrong. I use a Faith Merc and Windforce on my boa. Now we can get rid of the fake Merc. I love it. Comprehensive play testing disagrees with you. what's he say? Also watch Cooley say this rune word was trash. Which, is it trash or the best rune word ever? Lol. Yeah, it's kind of the ones where you either love it or hate it, evidently based on the comments here. Couldn't agree more. Was planning on playing a Bolzon in the upcoming ladder season. I'm a bit of a casual, so I never crafted Faith before, but it would be my for this season. Now I'm thinking if I should play something else, even though I'm a casual. I don't want Blizzard handling me broken OP items for free. It's terrible item design. Love it. Good comment. Good comment. Good comment. I agree. Yep. Decisions like this make the difference between a good game and a bad game, independent of balance. So you would use hustle as if it... Sorry, my eyes are a bit blurry at the moment. One sec, guys. So you would use hustle as if Faith wasn't a rune word? I'll read on, I don't quite understand yet. Bows have been weak for years. Let them have a chance of being OP. The real problem seems to be that one rune word would no longer be used, so we shouldn't have this proc. How about all the users trying to find Windforce and then gets kicked out and no longer used because of Faith? Tables being turned. Ladder's still around, as far as I know. Welcome to play that if you like Windforce. Actually, I'll say this, and so don't see what the problem is. Balance changes would address your concerns. Sensible. Okay. Left comments to someone asking if it's really hard though. Was big denial moment that the guy was right about Bolzons being so low on the totem pole compared to other off meta melee builds. You're saying Bo is in denial of how Bolzon's builds match up against other types of top builds. Yeah, clarify that one. I'd like to know that, because I mean, we do know that casters do have a clear advantage. We know that Jabazons can clear cow level in like 2.5 minutes, as opposed to like a Bolzon who at very best can clear it in 4 minutes. Like very, very best, like absolute tip top gear. Like for players 8 cows, that is. Yeah, you know, there's nothing to deny. Like it's all about kind of being realistic and sensible at the end of the day, right? But what we should be aware of is we shouldn't be balancing the game to allow players to play players 8. That's just not the right way to go. Not only is players 8 directly inaccessible, like you can't just switch it on all of a sudden like it's a extra difficulty level, it's also a representative of 8 players playing in a single game. So if you can solo that content, then imagine what 8 players can do. It just doesn't make sense. I'm saying he responded to someone and it sounded like denial. He just flames the guy for how hard the game was. The guy point was super accurate. Charms and perfect items are the only chase items. Everything else is easily gotten first 2 weeks. Okay, I'm not sure if I agree with that. If as a place I've been in denial, let me know what comment that was. I'll try and search for it and I'll have a look at it. Just try to mention what words were used in that comment and I'll try to search for it. Because yeah, that's definitely not what I'm trying to do here. Because as I've said, there is a balance issue, no doubt about that. If it was me, I would just sort of be transparent in this as well. The balance philosophy should be such that if you're doing a speed run, then players one should present a reasonable challenge. As you progress your character and get more and more items, then gradually over time, you'll be able to do higher players counts, and then eventually in players 8, even if you have the best tip-top gear, you should still be struggling at that level. That's kind of see the perfect balance of where things should be. Probably not utopian ideal, but I think that's a healthy compromise to say, like, if you've got the best gear all in the world and you still struggle in players 8, that's the way it should be, then I think that's a pretty reasonable position. All mainstream like builds and stuff should face kind of that same difficulty curve. So with that in mind, because casters find players 8 like just far too easy, I think there should be some kind of nerf to caster builds. And I think the best way to go about it is to adjust down synergies specifically. So Novasork, let's say like, I'll just go to, let's go over here. Let's see if I can find Novasork. Actually, we don't need to, just need to go straight into here. So we see Nova here, for example, 5% lightning damage per level. Right. So if you notch that down to 4%, that is a 16% damage drop for the Novasork. Would that be a terrible idea? 16%. I don't think so. I've actually tested the Novasork out. In fact, it's one of the builds, non-Bolzon builds that I do want to build properly. I did get myself a Griffin's for free, and I did get myself a Sork Torch for free as well from a lottery giveaway. It is something I might one day build, but I've tested it offline. The difference between players 1 and players 8 is minuscule in terms of difficulty. That's where I'm coming from when it comes when I say that these builds deserve a nerf. So if we notch that down to 4% instead of 5%, will that really make the Novasork bad? I don't think so. I don't know if what people's feelings are with that, but a lot of people just seem to say nerfs shouldn't happen at all. It's like, well, why? What happens if we actually nerf something? Like, the worst case is they take a little bit longer to clear players 8, most likely. At least with a Novasork, at least with a Lightning Sork, at least with a Javazon, at least with a Hammerden. They will just take slightly longer to clear content. It's not going to impact the overall game experience, and because there's a difference between the two. So I think to kind of make things a bit sane, we need to accept that there's got to be nerfs on the top end, because the alternative is extreme buffs on the bottom end. And when you do that, content just becomes too easy. And that's what we don't want in the game. So that's my point about nerfs. I think they should be done. It is something that I'll be going into details in a future write-up, but I'll just leave that for now. Bad take. What to say to that? I don't know. It's hard to respond to something like that, isn't it? Um, hmm. Let's just say, I don't know. Would like to know more why you disagree. Okay, that's fine. I think, look, just respectful comment. Want to know more because you didn't really say too much. Like, I'm probably not going to hold my breath, but, you know, you never know, right? Faith is used on mercs mostly anyway, so No, they are not. Just make it unusable in bows. Boom, fixed. They already tried to fix melee skills like Whirlwind and they wound up nerfing it in the process. So here's an idea. You will see that, I'll just go 1. You'll see that the proc was still easy to achieve while holding a hustle sword. I demonstrated that because I knew that feedback will come up. And for skills like Whirlwind and so on, just add +1 damage per character level. Not character level, skill level. Instant easy buff. In what world do you think the devs are capable of doing anything substantial? Well, if we kind of take that morbid approach, then might as well just not continue to talk about Diablo 2 at all, right? In a world of Sunder Charms, it's too late. They already sent their mandate versus speed stays. Okay, I don't know about hated, but I strongly disagreed with Sunder Charms. But if they are in the game now, then slightly nerfing damage-based synergies on casted builds is the way to go. The way to go. Okay. Am I getting through this? I agree. Everything to help casters. Did you even watch the video? You can proc it with strafe. Sword to hustle sword done. And that's a problem with the mechanics of the game, not burst of speed. Calling for nerf or mechanical redesign to chance of... Yeah, it's kind of like what I said earlier. If you want to change the mechanic of chance to cast, then you're going to affect Atmos, you're going to affect like Witchwild Stringbow, Puspitter, Reaper's Toll, a lot of stuff that already rely on that mechanic. So if you're going to change that, then just know that you're going to destroy a lot of those items. It's not a bug because I have Hustle equipped when the arrows land on the target. This is how Lacerator works as well. It's not a bug. Yep. Okay. Boo, stop complaining. Being able to use Windforce again is awesome. Cool. I like your suggestion for the alternatives, however, I think should be on different rune words. With regards to your argument of Windforce value, well, it's not really an argument about Windforce's value, it's that the value is reflected on how common or rare Windforce is in comparison to Faith. If Hustle comes to ladder, Windforce value may increase by a lot. In my opinion, Hustle should have been a level 1 rune word for low-level speed runners. I can accept Hustle be changed to a level 2 burst of speed proc and hustle only available to be made in melee weapons. This is a suitable compromise. And even then I have doubts, but I mean, if that's the only option on the table, then I'll take it. Has a use as a switch weapon for some characters, but for a playthrough, I'll take lightsaber or Butcher's Pupil any day. Didn't know lightsabers were that common in a playthrough, but yeah, whatever. Don't know what to say to that, I'll just do that. Totally get addressing the root of the problem instead of quick fix with gear, but my counterpoints are this. Boazons have it rough for a long time, and two, really expensive relative to other builds. Boazons get better and cheaper, solid in my book. Now, I don't love the idea of obsoleting gear, but let's be honest, Faith is a really hard rune word to make. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder how Burst of Speed would stack with Breath of the Dying. Anyway, I'm cool with Burst of Speed, whatever doors it opens up, at least for a season. Not an unreasonable position, I guess. You're open to possibly observing if it is broken or not in practice. I still think buffs and so on should be addressed via skill changes first and foremost. Okay, yeah, I like the new rune words, but game breaking stats just make the game too easy. Yeah, can't disagree with that. Can't disagree more. I'm sure you can, just try a little harder. Okay. I must disagree. I think Hustle's Burst of Speed is a great addition to ladder, will hopefully shift the meta away from All Almighty. If meta shifting is what we're after, we should be exploring skill-based changes first. That's the thing, I kind of say this in my video, but it's like half the people don't even bother taking it in. Okay, Jinshin. Yay, we can put facets now and increase attack speed at 7 frames. Yeah. How much more do I have to go? Oh god, okay. Okay, let's try to get through this quicker. I don't know about items which cost more, need to be better. Wrath, Eternity, etc. There are many expensive rune words that are outclassed. All this means that Windforce will become more valuable and Faith will become less frequently. Drop rates will still stay the same. So new balance will eventually be found in the market between these two. Yeah, I think it's already established that Windforce is going to be better. Back in 109, look, I don't care about history. 109 is 109, this is D2R, this is 20 years later. It doesn't really matter at this stage. If you're not aware of history, then you're doomed to repeat it. Okay, not the perfect metaphor, but anyway. The most expensive item, and if it's new meta, which is a big driver for how expensive things are. Balzon's perfect viable with Windforce, Lionheart, and a Merc with Reaper's Toll. No kidneys needed. Right now, Balzon sucks compared to many other builds, including Javazon. Okay, I'll adjust that point too. Again, don't disagree that balance is an issue, but we need to address this with skill changes, not game breaking item introductions. Okay. Most suggestions on how to balance PVM have an adverse effect on PvP. Changing skills is the easiest way to imbalance the game. Proc base, yeah, I think there's an element of let's call it validness. Having trouble saying the word. Just gonna grab a drink. Let's see. Proc-based buffs to physical characters won't affect PvP much, but can serve underpowered PVM classes quite well. Interesting perspective, I'll say. Hard to comment beyond this without going into going in depth into specific examples, but interesting take. It's funny how everyone is used to Blizzard's Hawk or Hammer Pally being completely OP, but if another class has something that makes it comparable, it's considered broken and Blizzard needs to fix it. Can we have a different class be the meta for the first time? I think it would be fun and interesting if we had a season where everyone wants to make a Balzon. I don't think it'll be interesting if everyone makes a Balzon. I think it'll be interesting. Yeah, I was trying to say that word. I just found it hard. Validity. Yeah, thank you. I don't think it would be interesting if everybody made a Balzon in one season. I think it would be interesting if the playing field was even and players got to choose the builds that they wanted to play purely on their terms rather than because they felt they would be uncompetitive if they chose something else. What to say to that? Let's just have a look at some more of this. It would be fun and interesting if we had to see... Okay, I read that part. Hustle doesn't even make melee OP. For melee, Grief is still better. Yeah, this dude keeps popping up a lot, seeing the same stuff. Cool nerf CTA, and then I'll take everyone complaining about pre-buffing seriously. Windforce is still the best bow for Amazon. This guy is a Faith Bow fan or something. Shall I raise and respond to that dude? I'll respond to this dude and respond to this dude up here. So, this guy is a Faith Bow fan. What to say? Well, it is the best performing bow out of the bunch. If that's what you're... Probably not that, but not sure what to say beyond that. Based on extensive testing. I don't agree that everyone should pick the same character in a season. We should be making the choice from players purely based on their own terms rather than being swayed too much by feeling uncompetitive. For that, skill-based changes to balance things is 100% the way to start. Okay, there we go. Some numbers with burst of speed. Wind Force reaches 8 frames. Yeah. So it's basically 65 increased attack speed to reach 7 frames now. Faith reaches that in... Yeah, pretty much you just need Blood Fist gloves or something like that to reach the max attack speed. This opens up so many options for Bolzons of all kinds. Venus provides increased attack speed from set bonus. No, it provides it by default, which also means max FPA out of the box with a hustle on swap. Hello, budget ice Bolzon. Okay. Not from set bonus. Budget Ison. Already done in ladder season 2 by other players. Thank you. Like your feedback. I love Hustle to drop in its current state will greatly reduce the cost of making a late game Amazon. Also really buff the freezing Arrowzon's damage. What? Why? I'll just say that. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't do as much as Fire Bolzons, but I mean, obviously, what do you expect? Because it's got the crowd control, it keeps you safe. Like, that's the trade-off of going fire versus cold. Keep versus speed on Hustle. This is for melee characters who cares that Amazons get stronger. Your idea is horrible. Melee builds not using phase would be more viable with a burst of speed. Okay. Okay, noted that you disagree. Thanks anyway. Agreed 100%. Cool, thanks for that. Been waiting for your take. Thanks, man. It seems that devs intended a Vigor aura for Hustle, not versus speed. Problem is that we already have this in Harmony. Yeah. Maybe if you could make it in Armor, Vigor would be... there's always increased speed. And you seem to not care if you get max frames for co-rune on every build. Think that it's game breaking as well as in terms of how optimization works. Yeah, like I said, a lot of players are like kids in a candy store. They just see what kind of looks good and shiny and they just want it. And if you try to take it away from them, then they'll start to get angry. So I think that's just basically what it is. Melee needs attack rating more than anything else and not a rune word. Like a scroll in Act 4 that gives 1000 flat attack rating. Yeah. Not sure where I sit on attack rating being adjusted in the game. I know the formula is quite harsh, but I think also if we do buffs in one aspect, like say skills, then it could potentially open up to kind of put stat points into dexterity, for example. I don't know, most likely they won't do that, but I mean, maybe it's just we have to accept that melee characters don't always hit, but in compensating for that, that we give them more damage with their skills. That's probably one way or another. They're doing more damage either way, so it's kind of like, do we need to focus on attack rating and damage if we can just focus on damage? So that's the question. I don't really have the full answer to that, but I know that it's a harsh chance to hit formula. The other thing as well is if you make chance to hit too easy, then it makes things like ignores target defense a little bit more redundant. I know that it's a harsh chance to hit formula, but if we increase damage on skills anyway, it may achieve the same ends of helping clear speeds of melee builds. I think reasonable enough answer. Instead of an armor, it should be a helmet. 50 run walk on a helmet? And plus it has 20 increased attack speed as well. We'll need to think about that one. It won't happen. Okay. Great analysis, mate. Love the suggestions. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Always welcome. 10 comments in here. I think the advantage that Hustle gives to improve melee builds by giving burst of speed option on swap far outweighs the disadvantages of Faith. I'll just grab this bit here. By being surpassed by Wind Force. Hell, I would argue that's not even a disadvantage. Runewords abuse only if we chose to remove burst of speed and do nothing else. I believe more broadly we should be doing skill-based balance changes and not address balance through key game-changing items. This binds players to gear on top of all the other bad reasons I mentioned. Super Ben. I'd rather use Faith if you're pre-buffing on PVM. Completely agree. Might need to read some of these comments a bit later, but sounds like it's just bickering. Bickering between each other. I wish one day we can all be 1/10 as cool as you. Sensing sarcasm here. What's that all about? Yeah, let them at it. I don't see the issue. Zon is the least played class. Thanks for your take. My concerns transcend beyond just game balance. Okay. Sorry, I can't agree with your point of view. I think Faith is more common than Wind Force if you consider drop rates. Really, if you consider that finding the base is actually the most rare part of making a Faith. finding a suitable base, I should say. Don't want people coming back and saying, oh, you can make it in a razor bow. Who's going to do that though, really? Also, finding the ingredients of faith from jar base does not mean you have faith, but you have the option to make one. Just like you have the option to make Enigma, Last Wish, Ice, Phoenix, etc. By using that option, you lose the option to make everything else. Over time, and every single time, more wind forces will pop up than faiths. But doesn't burst of speed allow for more flexibility in the build? Don't think I suggested otherwise. Change the current optimization method is not necessarily a bad thing. In this case it is. Okay, and D2 constantly breaks the rarer item, rarer rules, and also those examples you cited should be fixed. Those should be fixed, I should say. I don't know if we want to nerf G-Face or Laying of Hands. Allowing burst of speed will make the bolter more accessible to your average player. Okay, let's just leave it at that. And some other YouTubers just say all the rune words won't be used, lol. On the Mosaic Claw, they want 100% chance to not lose charges. Yeah, I agree with that part. Yeah, Mosaic should not be 100%, not even 50. People should be driven to choose between dual claw or claw / shield. 100% just drives people to claw / shield combo. Okay. If I'd rolled a perfect faith, though, I'd be pissed about hustle making it less relevant too. But for the majority of people, it doesn't apply. That's why I'm not just proposing to remove burst of speed proc. There should be balance changes made as well, which I hope Blizzard do instead. I wanted hustle. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Okay. Not sure why you need to be a kiss ass. These streamer type the shitty rune word for view. I think streamer the worst part of the game. Guess you include Guess you include a other kick butt shell. Kick butt shell. Is that like a Super Mario reference? What if they allowed it only in melee weapons and not bows? I addressed this in the video. Basically, the outcome's still the same. It's still gonna be easy to proc. Not as easy as having a hustle bow, but if you have a hustle sword and just strafe with your primary weapon, it's still easy enough to proc that versus speed. I just realized I can't see the comments on the output of the stream there over here. But what to do about that now, I don't know. Anyway. So I think this guy's actually the bitter guy on the Blizzard forums, right? I don't know. Just got a chip on his shoulder or something. Glad you covered it as well. Double Billy, how you doing? Thanks for the comment. Glad you covered it as well. Makes you feel childish in comparison to how I covered it. The main thing is I hope we get proper change here. Like the comment. Just say, thanks mate. Really weird changes they're trying to introduce here. I think you conveyed it well enough in your videos too. How much more do I have? Oh, we're down the bottom, hooray. As far as harder items to come by being the best, most useful, they obviously don't care about this. Hardest items to find in the game, tutorials might. Yeah, I know that. I hear you. They should look at buffing these uniques as well. If this goes through live, Windforce will be a lot more valuable. That's just how it is, unfortunately. Just make a hotfix. Yeah, I'm still of two minds on that one. More Bolzons might use Windforce, but it's not to say they'll be more valuable, considering how often they drop or appear in the market anyway. Just make a hotfix that you can't have buffs obtained. I'll just grab that here. Okay, there we go. Pog, great video. Thank you. Always love your positivity. So this one here. I am torn. Physical Bolzon is my favorite build, but I've always felt like Bolzons have really been a pretty weak ladder starter unless you have a bunch of high runes. And since I generally play pretty close to solo self-found, I just never end up making one until the ladder is ending. And even then, I just do it because of nostalgia. Well, that's just kind of your choice, isn't it? If you play SSF, then yeah, of course. It's much harder to get items if you do not trade. The only reason why I've got the items I do is because I spent a lot of time trading. I did not farm a lot. I probably farmed like a perfect Wartrabs and a one-off perfect Ravenfrost. Use that to trade for runes. And then I did some more farming with like a Blizzard Sork or something. And then I literally just traded my way up until I got multiple perfect jewels and stuff. Like that's how I did it. Yeah, I could definitely play and get items and stuff. But if you don't trade, then you're just putting yourself behind. So it's hard to balance this considering the margin of available items there are between a SSF player and a trader. I feel like Hustle could seriously help in that regard. I should say as well, not really a good thing to balance over for this reason. Not to mention that Blizzard should be encouraging group play or group play, not necessarily group play, but interaction. Yeah, something like that. I disagree. The Bolzon is already underpowered with this addition. I bring them. Hence my suggestion for skill-based changes instead. I've always wondering why Guided Arrow does so much damage, and I always thought it was because Guided Arrow was kind of bugged. Because if you've got Pierce, a projectile pierces and comes back and hits 2 times. Could be because Guided Arrow has 100% chance to hit target, subject to block check. So that could be why. Wrong way to balance classes, adding new game mechanics or affixes. Right way to balance, reverse patch changes due to 2003 PC hardware limitations, such as Fast Around Walk, diminishing returns, Sin can't target shadows. Kind of. Fast Around Walk is also... I was going to say that it becomes a lot more unplayable if you get lots and lots of Fast Around Walk, because you can't actually see what you're doing. And you can make the same argument for teleport as well, but teleport, you're not running through things, you're going from one spot to the other. So it's kind of different. But what to say to this? I should say maybe interesting take. So, not sure about Fast Around Walk personally, because too much Fast Around Walk or with not enough diminishing returns, the game can become unplayable. That would be my only counterpoint to that. Yeah. Shinui, thank you for that. I like that you're using the emote after you've become a member. I got to add some more emotes to this too. Got a couple in mind, so I'll do that whenever I'm free. Sebastian, I really like having burst of speed on melee characters, but if the most fanatic Bolzon player speaks about this rune word, I'll listen. Your points are quite valid, and I agree with the idea of having harder to get items to be better. Thanks for the video and the calculations, man. Okay, cool. Thanks for your comment. Always like to hear that. Okay. Boom. I already rock Faith Merc Windforce for GG Telecirc for 7 frames per attack. Hustle frees up my belt slot for Nosferatus. Okay, that's weird. Possibly gloves or even amulet. What gloves would you possibly want to replace though? All the good bowls on gloves are 20 increase attack speed, even if you didn't need that mod on it. Metal Grid. You're still going to be using High Lords, which also has Deadly Strike on it anyway. And Cat's Eye has the Run Walk on it. Reaper's Toll, Iron Golem. Reaper's Toll, Iron Golem. Well, I mean, knock yourself out, but yeah, using that just for an Iron Golem, I'm not quite sure about that. That Iron Golem's going to die so quickly. And for physical immunes, use Magic Arrow. Especially without flickering flame on your Merc. Yeah, so I don't agree with that. Amulet slot is also quite valuable, even without increased attack speed. High Lords with Deadly Strike, Cat's Eye with Buster and Walk, and Dex, by the way. And I think that's the last comment. Yes, I'd rock Hustle on swap, not CTA. Yeah. Okay. Comment here. Yes, that would break all pre-buffing mechanics if you have to keep the item on at all times. Yeah, but it's kind of like you're creating a solution for something that you introduce into the game that shouldn't have been introduced to begin with. So I don't know about that. I just think like if you're going to introduce burst of speed at all and there was no budging on that, then make it level 2 burst of speed, no higher. And then you don't have to implement that thing because level 2 burst of speed is actually not that profound, at least not as profound as a level 9 burst of speed. So let's see. That's a lot of comments. And I think just given that it's 2:30 now, I'll probably have to scutter off. I'll save these comments for later on. But thanks for sticking around, guys. I hope you kind of enjoyed me going through the comments here. I had no idea how it would have gone or whatever. But I hope you found it to be entertaining on some level, insightful on another level where you could see me kind of think as I go. But sheer volume of comments actually did make this quite challenging because pretty much kind of have to just not spend too much time on one comment than I normally would. Like if I was to reply to comments that come in as they drip in, I would actually invest the time in it properly and give it a good response. But for today, it's a bit difficult just because of the sheer comments and the amount of time that I've had to kind of respond to everything. So I hope that doesn't come off in a too bad way. I suspect with the negativity from some of these comments anyhow, there's probably going to be no changing their mind. But I mean, who knows? There's always a chance, right? You give benefit of doubt to the people that you're trying to respond to. That's the best you can go. I thought about just making comments over and over again so the stream never ends. Well, I'll call it here anyway, and I'm sure there's comments that have come through since then. Hey, there's one on my strafe video. I really hope they do fix it. My blonder's struggling. I think we're seeing a fix come in for this one. We are. Someone liked your comment. PS, jump into Discord. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll respond to you a bit later. Cool. I gotta go do some stuff, have a pee, eat some lunch. It is so hot in here as well, even if with the aircon on. Good evening and happy scuttles. Yeah, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't see any other Diablo 2 YouTube content creator do something like this as well. So I hope this brings something unique to you guys as well. Just wish it wasn't so many comments. I didn't expect anywhere this many. Let's just actually see like the amount of views on the video. Yeah, okay. I didn't expect this level of reception on the video. I was actually quite surprised. Yeah, I'll make a follow-up video for this, I think, as well. Or, definitely I'll be keep in touch in this space, trying to add some more comments and stuff to here. I'm going to be busy. And on top of that as well, I'm actually planning like a playbook for the ladder team that we're looking to put together as well. So if you're looking to build a melee class for ladder and looking for a team, definitely hit me up on... Hey, John Woo, thank you for the sub. I just realized you can't really see that it's cropped out, so I'll just make a note to edit this layout. Sub pop-up gets cropped when a sub comes in for the watch party. Okay. So anyway, we're looking for players still. So if you feel like you can commit a good amount of time in the first few days of ladder, then do let me know. And if you're looking to play melee class, so we're specifically looking for a Zeal Pally or a Werewolf Druid who does Fury. So Fury, Oak Sage, or Heart of the Wolf. We've got a Barb. We've got a couple more Pallies. We've got an Enchantress. We've got a Necro, a melee Necro, and myself as a Bolzon. So that's the team. If you're interested to join for this next upcoming ladder, then do let me know. So thanks, guys. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you did enjoy this video. I enjoyed doing this video, but I hope it came off right. I hope it was engaging. I've got to fix up the comments as well, so I'll just write that as well. Comments not visible on white background, unfortunately. So I'll fix that up as well. Cool. Thanks again. I'll talk to you guys later. Got to post up a live stream schedule in the next few days as well on what's coming up from a live stream point of view. So I'll keep you guys up to date. So see you guys. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good weekend if I don't speak to you. Cheers.